Here at Vibe Science, ultimately, we're here to empower you to your best self. It's about mind, body, and energy. And you know what? When you work out a lot, when you're eating a healthy diet, it's hard to get enough sodium. It is one of the most important factors in hydration, and hydration controls so many variables of how we feel, how our brain thinks. That's why we're proud to partner with Warrior Salt. Hey, we like to take the BS out of stuff. This is no bullshit, just electrolytes, straight fruit powder and salt, the real deal. I love this product because it's simple. Sometimes we get overcomplicated in the supplements we take, but all I know and what I've learned and the science has proven is you have to have enough salt for that balance of hydration. This stuff mixes really easy with water, as you see. You got to be watching the YouTube to get the full effect of this. How easy that mixes in, and a very simple citrus flavor that's delicious, easy to drink, and perfect before and after the exercise to stay hydrated. Look, if you're already thirsty, you've waited too long. That's why you need Warrior Salt, official partner of Vibe Science and Ryan Alford. Delicious, and will keep you hydrated all day long. Hey guys, on today's episode of Vibe Science, I sat down with Dr. Gopi of soundhealth.life. Incredible episode. Blew me away, literally, listening to Dr. Gopi talk about the way with which sound and vibration impacts our nasal passages. He was suffering from nasal congestion constantly a number of years back. He used his AI background, his tech background. Now he's a doctor, and he has figured out with some of his partners how to actually clear the nasal passages using that sound and auditory vibrations through therapeutics. Amazing episode, really insightful for anyone out there suffering or knowing people that suffer from nasal congestion. We're also doing some amazing things about not only breathing, but sleeping, and of course, overall wellness, the way they're using sound and vibration. The more I hear about sound, the more I know it plays an impact in a lot of our overall wellness. Really enjoyed this episode. Check it out now.
Essentially using all of the machine learning and AI work that we've done at Sound Health, and that's my expertise, to be able to get a CT accurate representation of your skull just based on a selfie. So that's the big tech innovation that we have here. The very fundamental effect is the vibration, essentially at the physics, at the very basics level, moves air in and out of the cavity. The reason we choose resonance is that's the appropriate set of frequencies that are able to move air quickly and fast. That way you get quick relief.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. We're always here to take you to your highest vibe. It's about mind, body, energy, as we navigate you, or at least try to help you get there to your best self. That's why we always go to the experts. We always go to the good doctor, Dr. Gopi. What's up, Doc?
Well, good morning to you. And how are you, Ryan?
I am great. It's a fabulous Tuesday here in South Carolina. I hope you're doing fabulous. Where are we this morning?
We are in the Bay Area, 7 miles south of Stanford University.
There you go. You're right there with all the smart people. Well, yourself included.
I would say that there's smart people everywhere, but I just happen to be in one of those places where you get this interesting mix of tech people and medicine, right? So.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's a cool place to be, especially, with our show doing the best of modern medicine meets, the best of alternative health. Talk to me about what's gotten you into this space. I mean, where did your health and wellness journey start, and what are we doing today?
Well, that's a fantastic question. So this company, Sound Health, was born as a result of my pain. So let me start there. Yeah. I'm actually a tech entrepreneur, and my last company, after I sold it very successfully in 2018, I ended up falling sick. I thought I'll take a year off, but I fell sick towards the winter before the pandemic. And I've suffered with allergies my whole life, but this one was very, very special. I had almost a month sinus infection, if you can think about that. Multiple antibiotic courses later, I ended up going to a dentist because I couldn't bite. I just couldn't eat. Pain was so bad. And I was shuttled away to Dr. Huang, who is our co-founder and is head of the Stanford Sinus Center. In fact, Peter Huang wrote the book on rhinology. He's probably one of the world's leading sinus surgeons, right? So I go to his office saying, my deal was I've suffered with allergies all my life. Fix me. I want to do something that can permanently fix this issue. And just to let you know, I run, I'm pretty much vegan. I do all the right stuff. And so Peter looked at me and he goes, well, you're really not a candidate for surgery. So that's how we started the conversation about sound health. And he was very clear. He said, whatever I do to you won't fix you to the extent you need. You're going to come back here in 6 months and say, Doc, you didn't fix me. And so I asked him, so what? You're the rhinologist. I've kind of hit the last rung on the ladder of docs. What do you have for me? And that led to, as with every Silicon Valley conversation in a coffee shop with my other co-founder, Dr. Lin, who heads up the Center for Asian Healthcare and Research. And so Peter and Bryant had been working on something well before I got there, which is to use a vibration and the energy of acoustics, but specifically tailored to a person's anatomy to really help them decongest and to keep them decongested with no side effects. So here we are from that moment through the pandemic, through 2 FDA clearances. We have the only AI wearable that's personalized to your resonances to basically be equivalent to a steroidal nasal spray that's available today.
Wow. And so literally the patterns and the sounds, vibrations, sounds, I guess those are really almost the same thing. I don't want to get down a whole music discussion, but there's truth to that, right? I mean, all sound is a vibration, correct?
Absolutely. And so Peter was able to see my CTs. So he had me bring my CTs. We stood around in his office and he actually calculated all of the resonances of the actual cavities in my skull, which is my big maxillary sinuses, my ethmoidal sinuses, my nasal cavity itself, which is like a tweeter. If you look at your face as a speaker, my nasal cavity is my tweeter, right? Wow. And so he then gave me a very unorthodox solution. He gave me a couple of toothbrushes programmed with certain sounds and vibrations and a bunch of buzzers. Well, we've come from that to the Sono Band, which is now available, which is a very sleek band that you can actually wear on your head that'll let you get therapy, right?
So I really wanted to ask Dr. Gopi exactly how these auditory and vibrations, how they clear the nasal passages and what is that process? Because historically, we haven't thought about it as being a sound or being a vibration for clearing. What is that? He goes into the diagramming of this. It's really important, but this was really insightful. Is this how versus like a nasal spray like you talked about versus other steroid, options, things like that for typical sinus infection? How successful is this?
So great question, by the way. So we, just to give you kind of a rewind back, our first study was done after the pandemic. We had 50 people who came in with nasal congestion. So our entire FDA clearance is based on the most prevalent and most, felt symptom of any nasal or sinus problem, which is your nose is congested. You can't breathe, right? So we took 50 people at UCSF, put them through, acoustic resonance therapy, which, by the way, I want to take a small detour here. Not everybody, including you, is walking around with your CT of your head. If you are, you're very special. I was, because I had a problem. But in any event, I ended up essentially using all of the machine learning and AI work that we've done at Sound Health, and that's my expertise, to be able to get a CT accurate representation of your skull just based on a selfie. So that's the big tech innovation that we have here, right? Wow. So, if you're going to go pick up our band or order it online or pick it up from Cedars-Sinai or from Stanford, the first thing it'll have you do is scan your face on your iPhone or on your Android phone. That lets us set up the precise vibratory sound and vibration that we play through your bones with a bone conduction headphone that's on your forehead. And that's what decongests you. So now coming back to the study. So we had 50 people. two 10-minute doses, and they responded better than Flonase, 90% response rate to a standard pharmaceutical congestion score that Flonase and every pharmaceutical uses to track congestion. Right. And then we went to the FDA, and the FDA is like, and we published that, by the way. That's all of the stuff is published. I'm happy to send you and the users our entire science repository. But that was published, and we went to the FDA with that publication in one of the largest and most tough peer-reviewed journals. It's called IFAR, International Forum of Allergy and Rhinology. And the FDA said, whoa, we've never heard anything like this. We need you guys to go. Exactly. We haven't heard or felt anything like it. I love it. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And so what ended up happening was that they told us that we need to do a gold standard study, which would essentially be a de novo. A de novo means never done before, right? And we got I'm going to say this, proctologist treatment because we never had it. Nothing was available, number one. Number two, the FDA had just gotten hit on the wrist for the epinephrine debacle, right? They kept epinephrine on the shelves in oral form. So we became the poster child for deliberation and diligence, which, by the way, was a 2-year effort. And so we had them co-develop the first ever study to answer your question, which is how effective is this versus 14 other over-the-counter medications before they would give us a de novo FDA clearance. Well, that study is published now. It's a landmark study. I don't think anybody's done anything like it for any device. So we had 5 nationwide centers across multiple allergy seasons, across multiple age groups and multiple face sizes, because they wanted to make sure that it works for Caucasians, for Asians, for African Americans, the whole 9 yards. And we got that gold standard data to them in 2024. 2023. 2024, we got clearance, and we started shipping in the summer last year, just a year ago today. Now we have over 7,000 people on the band, and we have the largest living database of nasal congestion sufferers in the world. Right?
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. And to think all from, sounds you're clearing, it makes. You get the connections, like anyway, you're kind of plugged in your ears and your nose, your sinuses are all connected. And so like
Correct.
You kind of fundamentally
Correct.
understand that, but to think that sound alone can clear out the nasal, it's just fascinating. I want you to talk to me a little bit about how that happens. I'm sure we could talk an hour about that, but maybe the simple terms
question.
of what that sound is doing that sort of creates the clearance in that. Yeah. And then I have to say this, Doc. Here we go. I have to say this, Doc. The proctologist's comment on the FDA, that was the nicest way I've ever heard someone say what I think you said. And I am going to use that in my conversations. That's the most polite way I've ever said. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll let everyone will connect the dots on that, but I couldn't let that slide. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's my. I'm in California, and that's a very refined way of saying what you already know, right?
Yes.
There you go. Here's I always use this. This is my favorite desktop vase, but it's a nice model of a sinus. A sinus looks like a pear-shaped vase, which is hollow in your head. And so you asked a really good question, which is how does the sound help? So the most important thing is we are using sound as direct bone conducted vibration. So if you look at the Sono Band, I can show you a couple of slides. I'll actually send you some slides that you can use if you want. We have a really nice demo which shows you a bottle or a vase, a solid object. The solid object has basically a volume and a neck. And so this solid object is like a musical instrument. I can blow on it and you can hear a sound. So that's the resonant frequency. That's the frequency which if I vibrate this object with that frequency, I can move the air, which is why you hear the sound when I blow. across its neck. Therefore, if I have this solid object, imagine this is in your head, your sinus, and if I vibrate it at the appropriate frequencies, which I can determine if I can actually understand its shape, which is why I do your facial scan, then I am actually vibrating. I'm transferring vibratory sound energy into the air inside this object. And that starts to move. If I'm blocked here, let's say there's a piece of mucus or a viscoelastic obstruction to this, it moves it out. So the very fundamental effect is the vibration essentially at the physics, at the very basics level, moves air in and out of the cavity, number one. And the reason we choose resonance is that's the appropriate set of frequencies that are able to move air quickly and fast. That way you get quick relief, right? The next piece of it is very, very important. Vibration causes vasoconstriction. Surgeons have known this, people have known this forever, because essentially what it does is it shakes the autonomic nervous system, which we're stimulating because behind your eyes lies the control center for your entire nasal cavity. It's called the sphenopalatine or the pterygopalatine ganglion. And that controls your entire nasal cavity. So when we vibrate that, then we induce vasoconstriction. We actually reduce swelling in the turbinates. And we do one other thing. We make the little hairs in your nose that are constantly sweeping gunk out start to regain their momentum. So we're affecting the physics and the biomechanics of the nose in a very unobtrusive, non-pharma way. That's how it works, right?
I love that. I mean, it's truly innovative. And once you explain it, doctor, it makes sense to me. I mean, I can visualize. I love the diagrams and the bottle and the noise and everything like that. Talk to me, doctor. You know, my wife suffers from a lot of nasal, problems like that. She'll get sinus infections seemingly 3-4 times a year. So we need to get one of these, number one. Number two, but but when she has a sinus infection, she does have, and it sounds like you may have had this yourself, doesn't feel good. Like it feels like she's just sick. Yeah, she's got congestion, but she just feels bad. Is this helping with that as well?
Yeah, so that's it. So I think you touched on something important. So our trial was 2 weeks. And this is important because we actually replicated the first pharmaceutical trials for intranasal corticosteroids in 2009. That's what the FDA wanted us to do. So we did a 2-week trial and we randomized people to get either their resonant frequency based on the shape of their sinus or a non-resonant frequency, just sounds that were intermittent. And you asked about the efficacy. So we showed that the people with the resonant frequency over time improved. So 2 weeks later, their nasal symptoms dropped by almost 50%. And we actually have endoscopic evidence. I'm happy to send you videos that show you the cavity changing. So coming back to your wife's question, sinus infections suck because they basically, ultimately there's inflammation and your nasal cavity gets blocked. So you can't breathe through your nose. If you don't breathe through your nose, you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. If you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, you're usually feeling fatigued. You're usually feeling foggy. More importantly, what it does is if you block your sinuses, and this is a Nobel Prize winning discovery that scientists made in 1991, I believe, you are killing the nitric oxide production in your body. The nitric oxide molecule is the most important molecule for respiratory health, immune health, and making sure that your entire respiratory system is carrying oxygen appropriately to all the parts of your body to energize your body, right? So when you get a sinus infection or a nasal cavity blockage, you essentially are shutting down the natural immune system of the body, number one. Number two, you're letting all of the bacteria propagate and actually do their bad thing. And over time, what ends up happening is if you use steroids or if you use chemicals, you're counteracting the wellness principle, right? In our case, we're using, a very precise mechanical vibroacoustic stimulus to keep the cavity open. And that's how we continue to help people. And by the way, there's no adverse effects. We've done now over 10 studies. We've got, I think, 7,000 people on it. And we've done real world studies that are published, with hundreds of people at scale. And, at most people say it doesn't work for me. We have an 80% response rate to this device and treatment, right? So, wow. I think to your question, any blockage of the nose or pressure in the actual sinonasal cavity is very obviously very painful, very, 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 very discernible. But the long-term effects are really, really bad. If you stop breathing through your nose, you eventually will actually lead to a cascade of effects that affect you, which is why we're now working with kids. We just got our FDA indication for kids down to 12. And that's a big one because the FDA wanted us to run the same study for adults on kids. And the kids stuff is that's why, this is a very personal thing for me. I don't want to ever have my kids use intranasal steroids, right?
Yeah, no kidding. We all know how important it is to sleep. Well, Dr. Gopi talks about the way they are looking at using these same vibrations to increase sleep at night to lower those that are suffering from insomnia. This is a really cool way. You will see they're going after that in the audio therapeutic space. Soundhealth.life. That's where people learn more. Am I getting that right, Doc?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Talk to me about, where we're going, like what does the vision look like for sound health? I'm hearing, what sounds incredible, like the success rate, helping kids, how important it is to have that nasal clear, like the impact that can have on your long-term health. But what do we want sound health to be in the next 3-5 years? What's the goal?
So I'll start with two things. One is I say three things, actually two things: breathe and sleep. And the third one is thrive. So performance. So breathing right, sleeping right, and then performance. Those are the three things in our worldview. We found that 40% of people who use Sonu today fall asleep. And so we ended up actually researching over the last 2 years the effect that it has, the effect that two things happen. What are we doing with sound and vibration to promote sleep? We thought it was just breathing, but then we discovered 2 years ago that we may be doing something else that we have access to. We have the ability to access your cranial cavity, which is your brain, with sound and music. And we've got the ability to do that in a way that is very non-intrusive. You're not hearing binaural beats. You're not hearing beats hidden in music. So with the bone conduction, we have a zero loss way to get vibration into your cranial nervous system. So next on our indications is sleep. We actually produced a study that, and I'll give you a preview. It's probably the first podcast I've mentioned this in.
We got a first here on Vibe Science.
That's right. We just got published to show basically 25 psychiatry patients who had no nasal congestion at Stanford came in for sleep disorders, could not sleep. And we used a standard sleep scale, an insomnia severity index. And after 4 weeks of use of not Sonu, but our new sleep algorithm, which basically entrains your brain with vibration to lower states of EEG, we were able to get 50% of the people to fall out of the minimum threshold for insomnia, which is amazing, right?
Wow.
And so that just got published, and we will be doing a product release in the winter of spatial sleep, which is a completely different, same band, but completely different look, feel, but for the sleep market. That's a big one, sleep coming up, right?
I love it.
And we're also working very closely, since the dental community and the orthodontic community and the airway dental community and the ENT community have embraced Sonu with so much enthusiasm. One of the big things that we want to do is start to give people the tools to analyze and grade and monitor their airway. So we have the incredible facial scan technology that gives you the quantitative analysis of your breathing, of your geometry. Wouldn't it be so cool if I can show you a CT representation of your skull and tell you all the dimensions and help you breathe better? So we are building the scan, treat, and monitor software ecosystem for people to really thrive. How can you screen kids in elementary schools? We're presenting a paper at the World Sleep Congress in Singapore next week. I'll be there to talk about the first ever smartphone-based screening tool that has no radiation for kids. So once again, breathing, sleeping, and performance, right?
Sounds amazing. Sounds profitable.
Yes. And by the way, it's very hard. It's very fulfilling for me because I'm no longer building chips and servers. We are building things that make human life, very different in terms of, really, really extracting the life out of the human existence, right?
Yeah, it's optimization, and just living more well. Like a lot of people walk around unwell, like they don't feel well. And I think anything that's pushing and leveraging AI and technology in these ways that help us feel better and perform better, hey, that's what Vibe Science is about. Doctor, I really appreciate you coming on. Tell everyone, I've mentioned the website a couple times, but just hit a couple of where to find you, where to learn more, all that one more time.
Yeah, www.soundhealth.life or get Sonu, GETSONU.com. And we invite you to come experience our technology. And we have a 30-day no questions asked return policy. Doesn't work for you, return it back to us. We want to make sure that people are happy and people are breathing right and people are sleeping right.
Can't beat that. Appreciate you, Doctor, for coming on. We really enjoyed
Ryan.
it. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed our new format here on Vibe Science. We're trying to take out the fluff and get straight to what you need. Calling this Vibe in 10 to 20-minute episodes where we get down to what some of these specialists, some of these coaches, some of these doctors across the mind, body, wellness space and how they can help you. We want to take out the fluff, get straight to the facts, and bring you to your highest vibe.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe